Hey everybody, Tom Miller here, and what an incredible holiday season it's been. I hope you are having amazing opportunities with friends and family as we are finishing up our holiday season here. It's almost New Year's. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've read a lot and in a lot of principles pages, and some folks have said to me over this holidays, and maybe they've said this to you, right? Is that, oh my gosh, you must be exhausted, right? Being in education, oh, you must be exhausted. When I was sharing with them the school that our team's leading right now, and the challenges that we're overcoming really well, and oh, you must be exhausted. You must be exhausted. I can't even imagine, right? So, raise your hand if you're in the Zoom, right? Or if you're on the podcast, if someone has said to you, you must be exhausted. Or maybe you've said out loud, I am exhausted, right? I am exhausted. And so my answer always is, no, I'm a little tired, but I'm not exhausted. There's a significant difference between being exhausted and being tired. See, exhausted, right? Exhausted is when you are working outside of your strength zone. Exhausted is when you are trying to accomplish something that you've never done before, or you maybe don't have the skill sets or the experience, whatever that may be. That creates exhaustion, right? Because you're just trying new things, and you're not really sure, and you're confused, and it takes emotional and mental capacity, and just there's a lot of failing forward. I mean, that can be exhausting. But being tired is actually a good thing. Being tired means that you're working in your strength zone, right? And you're making progress towards your goal, towards your desired outcome every single day, right? Or hour by hour, or however you're leading. The school that I'm currently in charge of, I don't make plans for 1 o'clock that day because it's only 8 o'clock. And sometimes I'm leading that school hour by hour. I'm trying to put my best hour in right now. Being tired is about, barely keeping your nose above water. And I love gulping. I don't mind gulping. It reminds me that I'm constantly stretching myself outside of my comfort zone, but I'm always working to stay in my strength zone. Now, working in your strengths and not pretending to work in your strengths. This is where I see some leaders fail, is that they may have read a book, right? Or they may have seen something done, or maybe they were on a team that did it before or at a school, right? But working in your strengths means that this is something that, one, you're gifted at, two, you've received proper training on, and three, it might just come naturally to you, okay? Working in your strength zone. Now, anyone who works within their gift zone knows, right? They get more energy when they do this, right? There is no exhaustion when you're working in your gift zone. Tired, yes, maybe, but no exhaustion when you're working within your gift zone. Now, the tired comes from maybe working beyond your limits. And there's, certainly a point of time where, sometimes I just have to say, you know what, I'm not at my best right now. Right? Or this is a task where I need to be at my best. So I need to either create some white space. I need to put it away. I need to take a nap, or maybe even sometimes go to bed and wake up early, whatever it may be. Now you'll recognize that. And you as a leader need to recognize where you need to be at 100% at, and where you might need to only be at 50% capacity or 70% capacity, because your energy leaks throughout the day. And so people who become exhausted exhaust their energy at things that are outside of their gift zone. And as a result, they're more than tired. They're exhausted. They're mentally exhausted. They're burned out. And they don't realize why. And it's because they're trying to tackle challenges that are outside of their strength zone, that are not giving the greatest return to the organization when they do them. Now, certainly these are tasks that they are responsible for as the head of school. I mean, as the head of the school and the head of my company, I'm responsible for everything. but I'm not required to do it all. And that makes a significant difference when you can understand the difference between what you are responsible for versus what you are actually required to do. Again, being exhausted, trying to accomplish something that you do not know how to do, okay? Maybe it's something you've never done before, right? And otherwise you wouldn't do it unless it was required of you, to do it, right? You might be the only person in your organization to do it. Or you may just feel that you are the only person in your organization to do it. I'm probably going to say it's part 2 and not part 1. That happens a lot. And we've done lots of lessons on empowering others and, developing the leaders around you and building trust. And I'm not going to go too deep on that now, but I'll make sure that I put some links here in the comments. So if you want to dive into those lessons or those podcasts, you can. But when you repeatedly work out of your strength zone, this is where, in my opinion, burnout and exhaustion start to show. Burnout and exhaustion show when you're working outside of your strength zone. You should always be working outside your comfort zone, but it's outside of your strength zone. And as a result, if you are exhausted, you're probably also working at a low level of awareness, right? That self-awareness is what's going to be so important to you, to have a clear understanding of your 3 R's, which are: what is required of me? This is the work that only I can and should do for myself and for this organization. Anything that anybody is 80% as good as I am, I'm going to delegate it to them. I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to train them and equip them to be able to take that task. The second R is return. What does the organization get the greatest return at it when I do it? Now, my strengths in school leadership are creativity. It's overcoming problems, right? It's seeing the bigger picture. It's filling in the pieces. My weakness is writing and anything that's very detail oriented. So you don't want me doing the schedule, but I can certainly take a look at a schedule and give you some ideas of how to change that. I'm really good at helping people better believe in themselves, right? So finding the strengths in everybody and help them and put them into a position where they could be more successful. Strategy is a strength of mine. Creativity, I've already talked about, is a strength of mine. Overcoming adversity is a strength of mine. Like, these are things that I'm really good at. And that's why I get hired a lot to help schools and organizations that are in crises, right? Or need, better results or better ideas, or they, need to take a deeper look at their plan, whatever it may be. Right? Those are some of my strengths. Now, what I need to do is surround myself with individuals who complete me, individuals who have the strengths that I don't have, the detail-oriented people, the finishers, right? I need a lot of finishers on my team because I have a lot of unfinished projects. I'm a big idea person, right? But I need to be aware. But it's taken me a long time to become aware. And one of the tools that I use this is our DISC leadership profile. And maybe some of you listening have taken our DISC leadership profile. And if you have, go to page 17, and it's going to list out what your strengths are. And those two or three bars that are above the line, that's your strengths. And that's where you should spend 90 to 95% of your day working in those strength areas. The rest of the areas you just need to be aware of, of if you're in that work, right? If that's part of your work, like, details and process, if that's part of your work, you need to be able to manage that. And you need to not spend a lot of time, doing it. This is where you could start to delegate and hand over tasks to other people so they can complete you, so you can focus your time on those strength areas. There's no other greater challenge that I think you're ever going to find is working, right? Is trying to accomplish something that you've never done before, that you've never seen before, that and this is why I love our principals consortium, which is part of our inner circle, where every single quarter, and next month we have another one in Charlotte, North Carolina, at Socrates Academy, where we bring principals from across the state, or wherever the world really, and we Zoom them in, or they're there in person at the school. And so this is an opportunity for leaders to walk around and see school improvement initiatives at work. right? And to expand their vision, because if, great leaders see more, and they see more before others. But if you have yet to open your eyes, if you've yet to walk through high performing schools, it's going to be really hard for you to solve those complex challenges at your own school. And this is why, there's no other greater challenge than trying to accomplish something that you've never done. Now, ultimately, everything we have done now, we couldn't do at one time, right? We couldn't walk, we couldn't talk, we couldn't ride a bike, we couldn't swim, right? We couldn't do lots of things. We had to learn how to do them. But our learning is accelerated when we have a mentor, right? Or when we've actually done it ourselves. Or when we've had, training, like real training, like practical training, not just reading a book training, but, training and implementation and practice and feedback to get better and better and better. Now, you need a blueprint for this success. And one of the things I love about our Principal Leadership Academy is that it's our framework, it's our blueprint for success. So every time that we go into an organization, right, and we see a problem that needs to be solved, we have a framework to fix it. Right? Whether it's 5 steps or 7 steps, maybe it's 10 steps, right? But our Principal Leadership Academy, it's a digital leadership program. It has all those frameworks in there, so you could actually learn and take that framework and implement it yourself. Now, it's hard to do it the first time on your own. There's a lot of failing forward, but there's no other greater challenge than trying to accomplish something that you have never done, that you don't have a blueprint for, that you don't have a mentor for, that you don't have a guide, you don't have a training. And this is one of the keys to our success as an organization is equipping leaders to have these frameworks. Now, you have lots of frameworks in your school already, right? So I would encourage you, right, is to do 2 things, is to really think through the systems and the frameworks that you have for hiring, for running meetings, for collecting data, for communicating to parents, for developing the leaders around you. Whatever it may be, that's your framework. And then you could take a look at that framework and see what works well, what's not working well, right? And how do I improve it? And that's where our Principal Leadership Academy, which is a digital leadership program, self-driven, online, but then it has monthly group coaching sessions. So if you're not in our Principal Leadership Academy, check it out. Go to our website at lbleaders.com. And right at the top, actually right now, we're running a special on all of our digital leadership programs through the end of the year, Principal Leadership Academy being one. You buy one and you get them all. I think there's 6 or 7 programs, and you can bring in a second person with you. So do that. Don't grow alone, and improve your school. And it's going to give you a blueprint for improving the culture, the hiring, running meetings, developing your staff, pretty much anything that you would need to improve your school. But so important for you to understand, no greater challenge than trying to accomplish something that you've never done before. So if you're exhausted, think back of, why am I exhausted? What created my exhaustion? Is there parts of my organization that I'm just not, equipped at yet, that I'm constantly failing forward on, that I've hit a wall? Remember John Maxwell's law of the lid. It's the first law in leadership, that your organization is constantly going to be capped by your success, right? So if this is a 10 out of 10, school leader, and you're a 5 out of 10 right now, your organization will never get above a 4 because everybody's hitting their head on you. And by, working in your strengths, releasing yourself and your team from their weaknesses, and getting more training, more coaching, and more equipping in your strength zones, your lid is going to lift. That's why I love when we go see these schools, when we go see Socrates on January 28th, I would love for you to be there, reach out, and you can come. On January 20th, you're going to see a highly effective school that uses the Socratic method in order to critically, to teach kids how to critically think, and everything they do is, through this model. This is a high performing school here in North Carolina. So, imagine being able to walk through the school with the leadership team and asking them questions like, how did you do this and how did you do that? I mean, that doesn't happen very often. You don't get a chance to walk through high performing schools too often. It's just another great way for you to be able to start to lift your lid to expand your vision. Now, think about every time that you go into trying to do something new, right? You know, it's like an audit, right? These large reports that sometimes we do that suck the life out of me. I don't do audits. I don't do reporting unless I am forced to do it. But I'm always trying to find someone to do it for me, right? Now, when you might have to do this the first time, it's not your strength, and you plow through it and you're exhausted by the end. Okay. Now, just from all the little check boxes and all the little things and all, because you're working outside of your strength zone. Maybe you're more of a, people-oriented, creative person, and this has got a lot of, check boxes, right? Now, that's where I used to really fail. It's like, oh, well, no one will do it as well as I can. Or if I'm going to be responsible for it, I'm going to be the one who checks all the boxes. And right. And what happens is that we peel ourselves away from what's most important. Yeah, the audit's important, but it's more important that you're spending time in classrooms. If you're the best instructional leader, if you're, developing your team, if you're, working with students to, create an intervention plan. I mean, whatever it is that you have to do to improve your school that you're great at, and someone can do as 80% as well as you can, like an audit, do it. You set the vision, right? Give them autonomy and responsibility, and have some check-ins every 2 days. Check in. Hey, show me where you're at with the audit. What are some questions you're having? What are some challenges you're facing? Make sure you're teaching them where they are and equipping them to be able to go through all those steps. And that's why I said building standard operating procedures, building systems, building frameworks within your school is going to help you release yourself from your exhaustion, right? This is where my teammate Lauren thrives. I mean, she loves to go down into the nitty gritty and check the boxes. But, recently we just wrote a charter application for the state of Texas, and we had never done it before. And we had written many charter applications. That was not the problem. The problem was the process to all the little nuances of the Texas application. I just remember her like saying that last week. I'm just exhausted from learning how to do it. She's a very, very talented person. I'm exhausted from learning the process. I mean, think about that. It's your job, right? It's your job to ensure you put people in your strength zone. Now, this is Lauren's, strength zone, but what we didn't really take into consideration was the learning process and the time that it would take to do all these other pieces. So this is where you need mentors. This is where you need to find other people that have done it before you, so you can ask them, hey, what am I not seeing? What are all the challenges that I might face if I say yes to this, or if we're going to move to this initiative? What other schools have maybe done it? And you've got a global network of schools. You can come in our school leadership Facebook group and ask a question. There's people from across the world there, and ask the question. Network. Hey, how many of you have done this? I mean, right now I'm looking for, folks that are, international baccalaureate schools. I want to go see one. I want to walk through them, because the school that I'm in charge of now is an IB school, and I don't know much about it. I've never seen one. I've heard a little bit about them. I've read about them, but I've never seen one. I want to walk through one. So if you're one, email me at tom@lbleaders.com, right? So this is where your exhaustion is coming from if you're not sure, okay? It's from constantly needing to connect with people, and it's from constantly working outside of your strength zone. And that's something to really, really be thinking about here. All right, so let's roll down to why this matters, okay? Why this matters for you. Work is not a dirty word, and it shouldn't feel like it ever, right? We make it dirty by thinking that we have to always roll our sleeves up and find out, all these new things, wrestling with the pigs, and just really getting muddy. But you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? That's not a successful organization. Putting lipstick on a pig is grabbing a book or watching a training and say, oh, all of a sudden, hey, we're a data-driven school, or we're a leverage leadership model, or we're an uncommon school because, someone went to a training, or, someone read, you watched Doug, Limov on YouTube. No, you're not. That's putting lipstick on a pig. The key is getting really, really good at what you're really, really good at, and putting people around you, your top 20%, not necessarily your top 20% in a position, but your top 20% leadership capacity people in a position where they can better serve the organization, where they're also working in their strength zone. So don't just delegate things. I mean, recently I was, coaching a principal, and it seemed like all the tasks that the assistant principal was struggling with did not align to their strengths. It aligned to their job title and their job description, but that means that they hired someone who doesn't align to those pieces. I mean, this is where, I love our hiring process, because we actually go through that, like, the avatar of the ideal employee for this position, right? That we take into consideration the key result areas that person's going to have to achieve. And then we go find the person. And, part of the process is to do a DISC personality profile or a strengths finder or something to that effect. So we know what this person's good at. And all of our hiring questions revolve specifically around their behavior that they've done in the past, because there's no better predictor of the future than asking them what they've done in the past. And that's why I just love the frameworks that we've learned, that we've built over time, and I would love for you to have them. So go ahead to our website and pick that up for you and your team. The hiring process is part of that, and our there's over like 200 behavioral based interview questions that come with that program. All right, so when you line up what you're great at, right? When you line up what you're great at, your strengths, with what you're required to do, those key result areas, right? With what the organization is going to get the greatest return at it when you do them, right? I'm the best at this, so therefore I do it. And what also fills your heart, right? What's the reward? Those are the 3 R's: required, return, and reward. It never feels like work. It's not work, right? I work a lot. I'm engaged at work a lot, but I don't really ever get exhausted from work, because I really love what I do. And I spend a very high percentage of my day in my strength zone, and I delegate things, or I've learned to stop doing them, which is even more important. I mean, over the last 2 years, since January of 2020, I've been the head of 5 charter schools here in North Carolina for short terms, 90-day blocks of time. And so in each one of those, I had to work within my strengths, right? I had to build relationships. I had to identify the current reality. I had to build a strategic plan, a short plan, to not only just hire the next head of school, but also to keep the school functioning. And then I had to identify the strengths in other people to make sure they were working within their strengths. I mean, every single time, it's the same framework that I have in our Principal Leadership Academy. I just did it with these organizations. And I don't take sick days. I don't have sick days. I don't have time for sick days. I've traveled around the world a couple of times, also teaching leadership. I've run a business during that time of also being head of those 5 schools. I'm a father of 2. I'm a full-time husband. I mean, I'm all these things, but I never feel exhausted, because I'm always staying within my strength zone. Always staying within my strength zone, right? I'm working on my presence, my mindfulness, right? So I just, pulled out some books that I had read a couple of years ago on mindfulness, and that's what I've been going back to every night. I've been doing my yoga again in the morning, right? Because I've got to take care of me so I don't get to that exhausted phase, right? It's all about awareness. It's all about awareness. So, all right. So there's always a learning curve. This is part of the learning curve. This is awareness that I want to bring you to, right? Is just get really, really clear on what your strengths are. Okay. And then also start looking at the frameworks within your current, schools, your hiring, your data collecting, everything has a framework, everything has a system, right? So if something's not performing well, you either have a system or a framework that's not very good, or it's broken, or it doesn't exist, right? One of those 3, doesn't matter. Your job as the leader is to evaluate those systems, because, systems are like the freeways to empowerment and to better results. So 1, know your strengths. 2, create frameworks around all these aspects of your organization, and make sure that, people are clear what these frameworks. Now, you personally are not to do all aspects of the frameworks. In fact, you'll probably be pretty bad at some of them. I'm really bad at some of them, right? Great example was yesterday. My wife wants to have our garage redone. And so she's been working with this garage consultant to build cabinets and shelves and all that stuff. I have not been on the front end of conversations, but yesterday was like the back end conversation. And I said, oh, you know, it'd be great if we did this and this and that. And it basically like started the process over. And it reminded me that I'm only good on the front ends of projects. Don't bring me on the back end because I'm always going to try to up level. And that exhausts your team. It exhausts the people around you. So know your strengths, okay? Stay within them. Fight you. Remember, if you were on our last call where we talked about, you know, the hardest person to lead is me, and I know that, okay? So grow your self-awareness, okay? And really get clear on what work needs to be done. And an easy end of the day evaluation for that is, what did I do today that I shouldn't do tomorrow? And then you ask yourself, does this thing actually have to be done? If the answer is yes, okay. Does it have to be done by me? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, great. Who can I train? And then you slowly work yourself out of that task, okay? So what did I do today that I don't want to do tomorrow, right? Or, you know, that I shouldn't do? Does this actually have to be done? If yes, does it have to be done by me? If no, who on my team do I think? Now, you might not know exactly, but what I do is I put a deadline. I say, okay, by January 15th, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to find someone and train someone to do it, right? Or I may stop doing it. And then I'll find out whether it's really important or not, right? So at the end of the day, what's something I did today that I don't want to do tomorrow? And start that process of working yourself out of a job. In fact, you should work yourself out of all the jobs where you're just basically leading the organization, developing people, and letting them do all of the work within their own strength zones, okay? And really, really start to seek to understand your day to day. This is going to help you move from being exhausted to just maybe tired, okay? And I don't want you really tired either, but, you know, it's tiring when you're working well in, you know, in your strength zone, especially when you're connecting with people, okay? And that's a whole nother lesson we're not going to go through today, but you know, I'm sure you can find it if you dove into our programs. All right, so here's your action steps, okay? This first month in January. 1, identify your strengths. And some of you have already taken our DISC profile on page 17. Just go to there. It shows you what your strengths are. And you're going to spend 90 to 95% of your day in those strength zones. And then you're going to get more training and more mentoring specifically in those strengths. And everything that's in your areas of growth, okay, you just understand them and manage them, but you don't need to work harder to improve them, okay? At best, you're going to maybe grow it by a little bit. I would spend more time getting training and getting better in my strengths than trying to improve my weaknesses. Okay, so identify your strengths, and then 2, is anything that you're doing on your tasks that's not in your strength zone. You're going to start to work to empower other people to do it, or just stop doing it. Right. So do it, delegate it, or just dump it. Okay. 3. Is that you are going to, again, work hard in your strengths. So every single day, make sure when you're building your calendar that they're only things that are in your strength zone, these that, you know, fit your 3 R's, what I'm required to do, what the organization gets the greatest return at, and what rewards me, right? That should fill your calendar. Don't fill your calendar with more than a half a day. You got to leave white space and also fire time. Right? And at the end of every fire, gather your team. What went wrong? How did we miss it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Okay, because it's a system. It's a system that's either broke or people don't understand, right? So what went wrong? How do we miss it? How are we going to make sure it doesn't happen again? And empower someone on your team to fix that, all right? And then every single day, right? What's something I did today that I won't do tomorrow? And start to go through that exercise. And so there's some research that shows that 20% 20% of people feel that they're actually working within their strength zones, right? Or they're only using 20% of their actual strength zone. Your job as a leader is to identify the strengths of others. So if you come into our leadership program right now, we're giving two-way. So it's 2 for 1. You buy one access to the program, we're giving a second license. That means you get 2 discs. So you can do a disc for you and a disc for your teammate. And now you'll have, strengths for both. Or you could buy a disc, for all of them. Very, very, affordable. And imagine if your entire team was working in their strength zone. So that's our Winning with People programs. And go ahead and email me at tom@lbleaders.com and just put Winning with People in the subject line. I'll get right back to you and share, some options with you to go through that exercise with your team, the key result areas, making sure everybody is working within their strengths. Everybody has clarity on what their role to the goal is. And we're building a team that completes, not a team that competes. Okay, so there's your 4 steps. Identify your strengths, right? 2, eliminate any of your work that's not in your strength zone by either do it, delegate, or dump it. 3, you're going to get more training and more mentoring and coaching in your strength zone. And every single day, you're going to continue to work yourself out of your job. You're going to go through that exercise with something I did today that someone else could do tomorrow, and you're going to put them through that training process to do so. So awesome. All right. So I hope this added value to you. If it did, we love, feedback. So go ahead, and if you're not, already subscribed to our podcast or our YouTube page, wherever you're watching or listening, go ahead and give us a rating. We would love, I would love some feedback on what, resonated with you, or just some, successes you're having, or maybe something didn't work, whatever. I also am working to improve on a daily basis. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you rate us, and share it out. If there's something that I said you liked, share with your team, come all together. If you want to take the next step and you want to work with us and our team in one of our leadership programs, you can go to lbleaders.com, lbleaders.com. And at the very, very top right now in red color is an opportunity to hop into one of our leadership programs, where you're going to get all of our top 7 leadership programs that will help you grow yourself, grow your team, live a more empowered life, and to build these frameworks for your own school success. And when you bring in one person through the end of the month, so the end of December, so you only got a little bit more time left, a whole second person is going to come into the program with you, so you don't have to grow alone. So go to lbleaders.com, go to the top, click on, go to the store, and go ahead and buy that December special program. I think you're saving about $2,000 right now. I think it's like $149 for two total memberships. So take advantage of that great opportunity there, and have a incredible, happy, and safe New Year's, and look forward to seeing you on the other side of the year. Bye-bye.